dawn, and we thank you for waking up with us here and trusting us, of course, to have a conversation and bring you up to speed with what you're waking up to as far as news is concerned. Of course, from the newspapers here and what you're waking up to, we'll be taking a look at that, giving you today's news, and of course, later on, having a conversation here about the state of the nation and state of politics in the country. A lot has been happening in the past 24 hours. And in the past few days, of course, touching on issues to do with governance in the country. President William Ruto saying, by the way, there is something wrong with this particular country, blaming evil spirits. But why are you opposing everything that the government is trying to do, from the education funding model all the way to social health authority and issues to do with productivity and development in the country, especially the issue to do with Adani deal? The head of state was not holding it down when he said that the country, though celebrating that the Adani deal failed to offer an alternative as far as the construction of the airport is concerned. And he said those people are motivated by evil spirits. Of course, we'll be getting into the details of that. What exactly should we be looking at when it comes to issues to do with getting investors in the country? What kind of people are we getting, and who exactly is to blame when it comes to people not trusting the government? Is it the government itself, or it's the people that are actually on the wrong? Later on, I'll be speaking to Frederick Okango, who is a political analyst and also member of parliament, Yata constituency, who is Honorable Robert Basil, and also I'll be speaking to Dr. Mark here on this particular set to try and understand and make sense of the events this particular week as far as politics is concerned and the governance of this particular country. My name is Brian Amuai. Start engaging us on our socials at Amuai Brian, that is on X at K24. The hashtag we are using this particular morning is New Dawn. We'll be sampling your feedback as we continue with the program this particular morning. I want to take you through the news, and later on we'll be taking a look at what you're waking up to as far as the newspapers are concerned. But our first stories as far as news is concerned is that church leaders have asked the country to continue engaging and demanding for good governance from the president, saying that each and every Kenyan is entitled to good governance. Now, Kalonzo Musyoka, who was also in attendance, has cited the reconstitution of IEBC as a case example, telling the government to set aside selfish interests and reconstitute the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Martin Opio reports on this particular story.
The National Council Churches of Kenya is once again grabbing the bulls by the horns, this time not only targeting the executive and legislature, but also the judiciary in the quest to reconstitute the National Elections Body, IEBC. The Churches Council is issuing a 2-week ultimatum to the judiciary to ensure that all cases that hinder the electoral body from having commissioners are concluded effectively.
We urge you to raise your voices to demand that the judiciary concludes the cases touching on IEBC within the next 2 weeks.
We have issued statement in the past, and that is why today we are asking Kenyans to join the NCSK and the church in calling for the political parties who have been squabbling over who sits in the panel to complete that process, and for the judiciary, which hosts the tribunal, the political party tribunal, to finish their work, render the judgment, and so that the panel can be in place to put together the IEBC Commission.
In the event there is laxity from the courts, Kenyans have been urged not to hesitate to undertake their constitutional rights.
The president's refusal, the persistent refusal by the current political leaders to reconstitute the IEBC is a major insult to the people of Kenya and an attack on who we are as a nation.
IEBC is a national asset and is a national security matter. A country such as Kenya, with a young democracy, should not exist without a fully functioning IEBC.
Speaking to the media in Limuru, Kiambu County, NCCK claims that Kenyans have lost faith in government and legislators are no longer dependable in checking the executive.
They have become spanner boys and girls carrying out the work of the executive. Instead of oversighting the executive, they are cheerleaders in oppressing the people. Instead of speaking for the people, they are making oppressive laws. This state is unsustainable.
The presence of a solid electoral body, according to the clergy, will help Kenyans in initiating the process of recalling legislators.
Article 1 says the sovereignty of this country is in the hands of the citizens.
Corruption is the biggest threat to national security and most destructive pandemic affecting Kenya. It is very unfortunate that every arm of the government, executive, legislature, and judiciary, and even the independent commissions have been associated with corruption. It is our conviction that only we, as the people of Kenya, can stop corruption. Let us end the culture of celebrating the corrupt and start shaming them instead.
The sentiments were shared by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who was at the Electoral Law and Governance Institute of Africa, Alger. Kalonzo is concerned that 3 years after the elections, the country does not have a substantive electoral body. The former vice president urges those with self-interest and are seemingly blocking the process to put the interest of the nation at fore.
I urge those who are standing in the way of reconstituting IEBC to be able to see the bigger picture. They should set aside their narrow selfish interests in preference to the greater good of this nation. Please allow us to reconstitute IEBC as soon as possible.
He argues that early and full constitution of IEBC will help the team familiarize with the technology before the election season sets in. He believes technology can make or break elections.
We want the Commission to begin working towards credible use of technology, among other preparatory courses.
Last week, IEBC CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan informed Parliamentary Committee that the Commission had sought an advisory from the Supreme Court as to whether the boundaries delimitation can proceed without commissioners and whether the constitutionally allowed deadline can be extended. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
All right, now Kenyans are broke and are left to borrow from digital platforms to sustain their livelihoods. Now, in a recent report released by the Central Bank of Kenya and its partners indicated that only 18.3% of Kenyans are deemed financially healthy. This has left many Kenyans with nothing left to save, with the savings culture experiencing a decline for the first time since 2009. Now, the main reason for this shift: financial constraints and the heartbreaking loss of income. Linda Koskei now reports.
Kenyans are left with barely enough to save as the pressing demands of daily life weigh heavily on their shoulders. The urgent need to provide for their families often leaves them with nothing left to set aside for tomorrow.
We're concerned about this. What we're seeing is that Kenyans are figuring out how to live day to day, or feeling out how to deal with maybe some risks. But because they're spending all their money on those things, they're not having money to put aside or to invest in the future.
As they grapple with these realities, many have turned to informal financial solutions, becoming a lifeline as they strive to navigate the financial storms of 2024. A recent report from the FinAccess Household Survey 2024, led by Central Bank of Kenya, FSD and other partners, revealed that mobile money has become a vital resource for Kenyans.
We're having people borrowing a lot. They're borrowing to pay for other loans, or have so many loans, and that's what's leading to over-indebtedness.
The dwindling savings culture amongst Kenyans has featured prominently in this survey, which indicates that more Kenyans are now relying on loans or credits for survival. Its accessibility and convenience in providing quick loans have made it a beacon of hope in these trying times.
So how do we make the digital credit be more friendly, more longer term for people to benefit? Because it's what people are using for their investments, for their day-to-day living, so there's something in there that can work for for Kenyans.
Bank usage has also risen to 52.5% in 2024, a testament to the resilience of Kenyans seeking stability.
Additional bank is actually increasing along all those demographic characteristics that we've been able to interrogate by age group, by gender, and even by residence.
Microfinance institutions, including digital credit providers, have surged from 1.7% in 2021 to 8.8% in 2024. However, the weight of debt distress looms large, with 16.6% of borrowers completely defaulting on their loans, a stark increase from 10.7% in 2021.
People are prioritizing the day-to-day needs. Households are also trying to address the shocks and the risks that come. Probably this is what is coming at the expense of the savings.
This growing concern underscores the trials that many face in their pursuit of financial security.
Kenya has a very strong savings culture, and so I think it's disappointing to see this dropping off. I do think that it probably is linked to that difficulty of dealing day to day and therefore not having that extra little bit of money to put aside.
Central Bank of Kenya Governor Kamau Thuge has attributed the notable increase in mobile money and mobile banking to the remarkable digitization of government, businesses and household transactions.
The adoption of mobile money technology in 2007 remains the most transformative innovation in Kenya's financial sector and has continued to drive financial inclusion.
This transformation, while beneficial, also highlights the delicate balance that Kenyans must navigate as they strive for a brighter tomorrow.
We see that when people save in more formal mechanisms, it unlocks other opportunities, such as credit from more formal mechanisms. And so that is one bright spot, even as we wonder about what's going on.
Main shocks in 2024 included major health issues, climate shocks, death of main income earners, loss of a job or a source of income, and wage cuts, livestock and crop failure due to pest and diseases.
Support.
Linda Koskei, K24 TV.
Now, President William Ruto has slammed those opposing his government, citing the recent Adani deal, the recent Adani JKIA deal that was rejected as an example, saying that those celebrating the failure of Adani are possessed and evil spirits have come to, take center stage as far as that is concerned. The president has called on Kenyans to be patriotic and support the government in its initiative. Electino Dera now reports.
The atmosphere was electric as 1,272 recruits proudly marched in the Pass-Out Parade at the Kenya Wildlife Service Station in Manyani, Taita Taveta County. President William Ruto presided over an event that marked a significant milestone in the careers of brave men and women who have committed to protecting Kenya's wildlife. He cautioned the youth to ignore those spreading negativity and attempting to divide the nation.
Musikubali mtu awashawishi kudharau nchi yenu. Nchi ya Kenya ni nchi yenu na hatuna nchi nyingine. Nchi ya Kenya ni mali yetu na ni haki yetu, na sisi inatulazimu sisi tutetee na kulinda taifa letu la Kenya.
The head of state urged Kenyans to embrace patriotism and safeguard the nation's integrity.
We must defend our country. We must never allow negative elements to scorn our country, to demean our country, to spread negative messages about our country. Kenya is first and foremost our home, and we must defend this country together.
President also commended KWS for going digital, which he says has increased its revenue.
For the first time, the government of Kenya is directly supporting community conservancies with infrastructure projects such as roads and water supplies for communities, livestock and wildlife.
This Passing Out Parade has the highest percentage of ladies ever in the history of Kenya's ranger recruitment.
The 1,274 ranger recruits graduated from the Kenya Wildlife Service Law Enforcement Academy in Manyani, Taita Taveta County. Electin Odera, K24 TV.
Now, the report on the Tax Laws Amendment Bill has been tabled in the National Assembly for the second reading. The Kuria Kimani-led committee tabled the report after concluding the public participation exercise. Now, in the report, a banking sector could be the highest hit under the business laws if the recommendations by Treasury to raise core capital from 1 billion to 10 billion is taken into consideration. Now, during the debate, it also emerged that Kenyans have little faith in their government.
Where central bank is coming in to ensure that they impose penalties for compliance is also a plus that we need to welcome in this particular amendment. So that, Mr. Speaker, we encourage the compliance and have a sanity, have order in this sector, and Kenyans in the long run will stand to benefit from their business. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
If we increase this core capital, then the banks are going to have reduced funds to render the capital. That is one of the disadvantages, and also to the private sector. So that is one of the disadvantages.
Investment. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of registration of manufacturers with the standards body, that is KEBS, I am in support. We have so many unscrupulous manufacturers who are doing things that are doing products that are either harmful, substandard.
In public participation, we have taken those issues into account as we legislated, as we passed the bill. Therefore, we are not debating this bill in its original form. We are debating it in its original form as informed by the committee with what they have done. And I also wish to speak to a few things that the committee has spoken to. The digital service tax, Honorable Speaker, that was proposed. The committee is proposing in their report, for those who have bothered to read the report, to remove this digital service tax.
All right, tumultuous floods. Now 10 people have lost their lives due to floods in the country, as over 3,000 rather families also get affected. Now Kenyans have been urged to plant trees in order to deal with the rising floods crisis in the country.
Sasa tangu hii mvua ianze tumewapoteza karibu watu 10 na kuna uharibifu wa mali imefanyika. Kuna mambo ya mimea venye MC alisema yenye imeenda na maji ama imesombwa na maji, na ni vizuri tujiulize ni vipi tunaweza kuzuia majanga kama haya. Na mambo ya kwanza kwa hiyo program ni tunaweza kupanda miti ili tukue na mazingira mzuri.
Tunaomba serikali tusaidie tupate pesa, atuandike pesa sisi. Tunaweza chukua hiyo pesa, naweza nunua mabati mahali, na kisha nunua mabati alafu niende nijengewe pande nyingine kama maji kuna mahali maji inaweza sumbua sisi. Lakini kwa saa hii hata tuliletewa mabati hapa. Hiyo mabati ni mzuri, ndio tumetusaidia. Juzi unaona hizi ama tuko nayo. Mvua ikianza kunyesha, hiyo pepo yote. Saa zingine hiyo pepo inatoa hiyo hema inaangusha huko chini na kuna watoto. Wewe una furaha kwa hiyo nyumba.
All right, thank you for staying with us here, and of course that does it for us as far as news is concerned this particular morning. But when we come back, of course, we'll be taking a look at what you're waking up to from the newspapers, and I'll be looking at that and trying to make sense of it with my guests here in studio. Of course, seated next to me, you have Dr. Mark Matuga, technology evangelist. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
You good?
I am good.
Thank you so much for coming this morning. And of course, Fred Okango, political analyst. Fred, it has been a minute. How are you?
I'm very well. Okay.
State of the nation from your perspective?
State of the nation is the state of the people of Kenya.
The state of the people of Kenya.
So we'll be looking at how the people are doing.
How the people are doing?
Yes, are the investors putting money, and is the money getting in the people's pocket?
Okay.
What are the politicians saying?
All right.
Yeah.
The politicians have a different language, if you ask me, because there's how the politicians look at what the state of the nation is, and there's that feeling from the general public. So to some extent, when the people tell you it's not working, and the state says, okay, it is working. So who exactly has the real picture?
I think it's more to believe when you see the investors injecting money in the revival of probably collapsed industries, and how that money translates. And I think that's the most important thing. We have seen investors coming on board. Okay. And I'll give you an example, maybe. We know that there is the issue of Bamburi cement takeover. It has been having problems, and the investors interested. We have seen Adani, we have seen, you know, very many people. The president was saying yesterday that Devki, they're putting up industries. What does that mean to the local man?
Right.
How does that money find itself on the table of the hustler?
Okay.
That is the most important thing.
Now we are going to be looking at that, of course, trying to understand if at all investment is being done and it doesn't get to the common wananchi, what exactly does that mean for the country? Of course, we want to take a break here on New Dawn. Continue engaging us on our socials. At Amoy Brian, that is on X at K24 TV. Across social media platforms, we'll be getting deeper into this conversation when we come back, and also take a look at what you're waking up to as far as newspapers are concerned. So do not go too far. We will